So welcome back to day 2 of the Tax and Legal Summit. We had over 600 attendees join our sessions yesterday and had a ton of positive feedback. Thank you so much for attending the summit and spending the weekend with us. Before I let Nick and Elaine take over with their keynote presentation, I do want to touch on a few logistical points about this weekend or about today. So you're currently in the tax room. Every hour, there will be 2 presentations starting at 11 a.m. There'll be 2 presentations going at once, one in the legal room, one in the tax room. Again, you're currently in the tax room. You should have received an email from us for both rooms. If you didn't, please contact us and we'll make sure you have those links. They're also posted in Mighty Networks. So if you could flip back and forth between rooms as you please. We also have the ability to chat in Zoom webinars. However, they will not be monitored for questions. So if you do have questions, please make sure to put them in the Q&A box. The Q&A box can be found at the bottom of your screen, right where it says Q&A. There's like a little, like 2 little boxes. It says Q&A. Click that, you could drop your question in. Now that said, I do want to turn it over to Nick and Elaine. In 1 second, I'm going to do a quick introduction. So for everybody who's just joining us, Nick and Elaine are the founders of Black Swan Real Estate, a family-owned and operated real estate investment company with over 10 years of experience owning and managing a rapidly growing portfolio of homes in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and Rochester, Minnesota. The strategy involves fully integrated services. Investors are entirely passive, and Black Swan handles all legal, accounting, and documentation costs, handles acquisition, and assumes all liability for the property, rehab, and tenants. Nick and Elaine seek to gauge their success by reputations and relationships. That's key, not by dollars and doors. They are currently focused on single-family home investments, but are interested in larger multifamily commercial and syndication spaces. So Nick and Elaine, I'll be in the background should you need anything, but I'll have my mic turned off, my video turned off. So the full spotlight will be on you whenever you're ready to take it over.
Awesome, thank you so much.
So I'm Nick Stoggerberg, and this is my wife, Dr. Elaine Stoggerberg.
Thank you so much for allowing us to have the opportunity to present the keynote today. We are so excited to share with you all about our real estate investment and real estate entrepreneurship journey. What you see here is the logos of several of the companies that we've created over time. We're so appreciative to Brandon, Thomas, the team at the Real Estate CPA for giving us the opportunity to do this presentation. And really our goal here today is to talk about vertical integration and how that one concept has totally transformed the way we operate as real estate investors, as real estate entrepreneurs, as business people, but more specifically how you can apply these concepts to your own real estate investing. No doubt there's a wide range of people listening today, all the way from maybe 0 doors, maybe just thinking about investing, to hundreds of doors. And we've covered a lot of that ground ourselves in our own real estate investing career, and we have big aspirations. So we're going to try to make this applicable to everyone. And let's jump right in.
Absolutely. So just a little bit of background about us, just to kind of establish credibility, let you know where we're at and why you might want to take some notes. Sincerely, you're welcome to listen to this on the audio, but we recommend you sit down, take out a pen and paper, and take some notes, because we're going to have a lot of information for you here. But just a little bit about us. We have done quite a bit. We're doing quite a bit. And these are just some of the numbers for our organizations here. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of context for where we're at in our journey. And we hope that gives you a couple of reasons why you might want to take some notes on some of our thoughts.
Yeah, but I think what's more important here, we're going to circle back to some of these numbers and ideas a little bit later, but look at the family behind the words here. And we are very much just a normal family. We've been investing for about 10 years. We started investing when we got married. Throughout that time, we've had 3 children. We both worked W-2 jobs for most of that time. During our investing career, I actually went to medical school. So for a number of the years, we went down to 1 income in our family. And all along, the real estate CPA, we started working with them about 5 years ago, so they've seen our growth. And the message that we want to have here is that we're able to do these really cool things, but we're just a normal family, just like everyone that's listening here. We take our kids to the same grocery store, to the same soccer games.
Costco.
Yep, all of those things. And again, going back to the topic, we're able to accomplish these amazing things because of vertical integration.
Absolutely. So in everything that we do, we like to start with the end in mind. So we hope that in the next hour, we're going to cover a lot of ground here very quickly. We challenge some of your ideas. We challenge your ideas about what passive income is, or if it even exists. We challenge your ideas about what financial freedom is. And most importantly, we hope that, we're going to hit you with a lot of nuggets here, a lot of ideas, a lot of challenging questions. And we hope that every single person in attendance today walks away with at least one big idea or small idea that can blow up their business in 2021. We're going to have some big concepts here and some extremely specific examples. And we'd like to think there's millions of dollars of ideas here for you in this presentation today. But what is it that we like to say is the difference between $1 million idea and having $1 million?
It's $1 million of execution. And so when we say there's millions of dollars of ideas here, we mean that, because these are the ideas that we have used to build our own portfolio, to generate millions of dollars of value, millions of dollars of cash flow, millions of dollars of net worth. But we're heavily into the personal growth space. We both have coaches, business coaches, and our coaches tell us you get what you get out of something, what you put into it. And our coach will tell us, like, it's 80% about you and 20% about me as the coach. And that's the same energy we want to have here. So we're going to give a ton of ideas from our own business, because that's the background or the expertise that we have to talk about. In a perfect world, this would be like a workshop where we would learn about what you guys are doing and hear what amazing stories you have and the lessons that you all have learned. But what we want this to be about, as you're listening to our examples, is we're going to be asking a lot of questions, and we want you to be furiously taking notes and listening to your intuition. When you feel that spark, this is a live presentation, so you don't have the opportunity to stop and really meditate on it. Just write it down. Our best ideas come from intuition. If you are listening to the recorded version, then you have the luxury of pausing and really leaning into that idea. But we want you to take these ideas, immediately think about how you're going to execute on them in your own life, and get that $1 million of value from this hour together.
Yeah, this could easily be an all-day workshop. That's kind of the amount of content we're cramming in here, where we would be very focused on your examples. Feel free to put some thoughts into the Q&A or chat. We're going to do our best to, just do some really quick rapid-fire Q&A if we can. But we're going to be moving very quickly here. So let's dive right in. Going back to like your high school business or economics class, let's just talk about what vertical and horizontal integration are, so we're all on the same page. So let's say that you were a paper distribution company on this particular chart here. If you were to go build or acquire, say, a pen distribution company, well, that would be an example of horizontal integration. And then if you were to go acquire or build an office supply retailer or a paper mill, that would be an example of vertical integration. So vertical integration occurs when you build or buy one of your distributors or suppliers in kind of like an industrial supply chain. We're going to talk about the value chain, because a lot of the stuff we do today is the information economy. Real estate is more of a value chain than a supply chain. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But hopefully this makes perfect sense to you about what horizontal and vertical integration are. We're going to talk a lot about why vertical integration is awesome, but we're also going to, let's just take a second to talk about why horizontal integration can be so dangerous. What's an example? Can we think of someone we know or a group of people we know that do a lot of horizontal integration?
Yeah, so I think kind of the typical like financial advice right now on like blogs or podcasts or those sorts of things is to be horizontally integrated. And again, we're not financial planners. Talk through this with your accountant, your
great resources here.
Yeah, your attorney, that sort of thing. But there's a common idea to have a little bit of money in cash and maybe a little bit of your net worth in your personal home, and some in stocks and some in bonds and maybe some in cryptocurrency. And even within there, maybe have a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of Ethereum, a little bit of what's up and coming. And we really follow Warren Buffett. We didn't come up with this idea ourselves. We're just looking at who are the most successful people we have ever heard of, and what are those people doing, and what are those people teaching. And Warren teaches that to protect wealth, one diversifies. So that would be like horizontal integration. But to grow wealth, and that's the phase that we are in our lives and in our investment journey, and probably many or most of the people listening, you want to consolidate. And so that's what vertical integration is. We get that straight from Warren. We've applied it to our business, and that's what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. And it can be it can be distracting. It can be kind of squirrel syndrome when you're early in your career. Horizontal integration can be deadly when you're late in your career. I'm sure we all can think of a litany of examples of Fortune 500 companies that have gone through disastrous mergers, AOL Time Warner or Daimler Chrysler, where it seemed like there was like a synergy there, like they were kind of doing the same thing, but just a little bit different, and they'd be so much more powerful together. And that was the beginning of the end for these organizations, because it diluted their focus. They had different core competencies that didn't quite work together. And it's important to understand that horizontal integration can be a powerful thing, but it's a really risky thing that you should think very carefully about before proceeding. Another concept that we're going to talk about here is horizontal versus vertical scaling. So let's say that you were a paper mill in this example. There's really only two ways that you could make more paper to grow your company, right? You could either build or acquire more paper mills, and ideally they'd probably be like, the exact same size and operation, even the exact same layout on your manufacturing floor or paper mill floor, whatever that is.
You can think about how, like, when you walk into a Costco, you know what it looks like, whether you're on vacation in a town you've never been in, or the Costco that's in your backyard that you go to once a week. You know exactly what to expect. You know where to find the meat, where to find the canned goods, where to find the clothing. That's horizontal scaling. And
you probably are going to get relatively linear performance gains out of making more copies of the thing that you already do that you're good at that works. You might sell twice as many goods if you have twice as many stores. You might produce twice as many goods if you have twice as many factories. And most critically, this is the most critical piece of horizontal scaling, you're building mastery. So each additional copy of that thing that you do, you get a little better at it. You learn a new trick in this market that you can then apply to your home market, or you get economies of like global distribution, that sort of thing, that have from a West Coast operation and an East Coast operation. Now, conversely, vertical scaling, that would be where you take your existing factory and you say double the square footage. And that can work. That's kind of the easier, simpler thing to do if you think about it. However, at this point, you have all your eggs in one basket. If there's a devastating fire or something, now your whole operation is being shut down. There's probably not quite linear scaling. You're going to have to like reconfigure things. You might double your square footage, but you may not necessarily double your output. And most critically, you're not building mastery. That one factory is a unique factory, and you don't have different managers at different factories that can collaborate and find ways to streamline their operations. And this really becomes very critical when you think about the most successful organizations in all of capitalism.
Write this down. Write down vertical integration plus horizontal scaling.
That's right. Google, Walmart, McDonald's, Amazon, they all practice vertical integration plus horizontal scaling. McDonald's doesn't have one big restaurant. They've got identical copies of their restaurant all over the globe. And you don't go to McDonald's because they've got the best burger. You go to McDonald's because they have the same burger. And in Russia, where they can't source beef that is can make the same Big Mac, they make their own beef. They do whatever it takes to vertically integrate to produce a consistent, reproducible product across their whole supply chain, across the whole globe. Walmart doesn't have one big warehouse. They invented the rolling warehouse. Their warehouses in their trucks, moving constantly around the whole globe. So this is a really kind of high-level concept, but it applies directly to real estate investment, because our goal is not to have like one giant apartment complex. Our goal is to have many similar assets that we can operate seamlessly and homogeneously and continuously improve as we iterate. And then through that constant iteration, horizontal scaling, we vertically integrate. Okay, so now we've just brought our 100th or our 1,000th unit online, and we learned something new, and now it makes sense to bring this piece of our supply chain in-house. So you can apply this concept to aspects of your personal life, aspects of your professional life, and certainly to your real estate portfolio, whether you have one door or 100.
Yeah, so real estate as a whole is kind of a young industry. And so what we have done is taken great ideas from business, and particularly great ideas from technology. Before we were full-time real estate investors, Nick was a career technologist. And so we're just taking those great ideas that other very successful companies have utilized time and time again and applying them to real estate. And so now we're going to talk about 9 of the biggest advantages that we see with vertical integration. We're going to start with cost and efficiency, because that's the one that you're going to hear about like in a college or an MBA level business class that's talking about vertical integration. They're immediately going to hone in on cost and efficiency. We actually think that's the least important. It's the simplest to understand, and it builds, it's the first building block that leads to all of the others here that we're going to talk about. But as we go through these 9 examples, you're going to see that the power of vertical integration gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the things that we've been able to do in our business by using these tools and leveraging this, it gets more and more amazing as we get through these 9. Again, we're going to talk here about our business. We really want this to be about you. So we're going to be asking very targeted questions. We're going to give examples, and we have a wide range of experience. We're going to try to apply this to people that have 1 or 0 doors, try to apply this to people who have larger portfolios. But as you're listening to our examples, we just want that to be the spark that you can then answer these targeted questions that we're going to ask, so that you can think of a way that you can move the ball forward in your own investing or your own business for vertical integration to get these 9 advantages. Let's kick it off here with cost and efficiency.
Absolutely, and feel free to pipe in and chat and Q&A as we're going through. If you have any breakthroughs or questions for us, and we'll do our best to respond. So some targeted questions here of who is spending money for you in ways that you can optimize? What can you do to financially integrate with your value chain? And what in your life can be directly versus indirectly? What are you paying for? An example from our business is that we tend to purchase materials for our contractors. So we give them a company card. And this is a really simple strategy. It doesn't matter if you've got 0 or 1 doors. You can have an account at Lowe's or Home Depot where your contractor can buy their materials. And this solves a huge number of problems. So first of all, there's no markup on the materials. You just pay the actual cost of materials. There's a little bit of a moral hazard there where they might, be spending money on materials that you may not actually need or something. But we found there's simple ways to just oversee your contractors to mitigate that and work with contractors that you trust, frankly. And then there's this really powerful synergy where they don't necessarily have to mark up their bids as much to account for the risk cost associated with the materials. So let's say, you've got a flooring installer and they're installing their flooring, and the square footage is just a little bit more. It's 10% more than they thought it would be, or there's some harder cuts or something. Well, they know exactly what their time is worth, what their labor costs, and maybe they just kind of let that go, or there's a very modest cost escalation. But if they're purchasing the materials, well, all of a sudden there's a huge cost escalation to go with that, and they need to kind of build that into their bid. So not only does it reduce the cost of your materials, it reduces the cost of your labor through vertical integration. So some probing questions for you to ask yourself as you're going through. We got a question there. Can you recommend any firm with vertically integration who has CPA, lawyer, and tax person under one roof? Was that a plant from the real estate CPA, or I think there is some excellent options here that someone should reach out to that anonymous attendee and make sure they know there's some very good advice available to them here. So next we're going to talk about control.
Yeah, so when we think of the quality standards that we're trying to create and the reputation that we're trying to create in our community, the more we're vertically integrated, the more we can control that. So we're going to keep going on this flooring example just to give many examples of how one small area of the business, by having vertical integration, we're able to get really good outcomes across the whole value chain because of that the vertical integration with that one small decision. So we have a particular type of LVP flooring that we absolutely love. We have spent a ton of time researching it, testing it, having it in properties, knowing that it's exactly what we want. And we want to have control over making sure that we have that same flooring in all of our properties. We want there to be standardization. We want to know that in 10 years when we're doing turns on these properties, we have that same flooring. And the way to do that is to have control. So we have a warehouse that at any given time has about 20,000 square feet of this flooring. Our contractors know to go pick up that flooring, take it to the job site, install it. Anything that's left over, they take back. And because of that, we're able to have the very high quality standard that might not come if we weren't vertically integrated there and had that flooring in our warehouse. Maybe that flooring is out of stock that day, or there's a really good sale on a different flooring, and so the contractor's incentivized to go with that one. We just minimize all of those variables, and we have great control over this area of the value chain.
So we would challenge you to ask yourself right now, what functions can you bring in-house? And I think there might be a little bit of an illusion that you have to like have a full-time employee or something in order to bring something in-house. And that's not necessarily true. It could be a big thing, it could be a little thing, but what's an aspect of your business, your real estate investment business, where you need more control, where you haven't had the quality outcome that you're looking for? And what's something that you can bring in-house today? You can start that journey right now to have more control over your business. So let's talk about something that's a little more exciting for us. We're moving into some of the more exciting categories here, and that's accountability. So in all of life, there's what's called the principal agent problem. Jot that down and go do some research. It's a fascinating problem, and this occurs whenever you have someone who is empowered to make decisions on your behalf. This happens all day, every day. The government, your employer, your employees, your contractors, your children, these people are empowered to make decisions on your behalf. And they might make a decision that benefits them more than it benefits you. So that's the essence of the principal agent problem. And I'm so proud to be a licensed real estate agent and a realtor. And we have what's called a fiduciary obligation to our clients. There's not a lot of trades where that's the case. For example, certified financial planners have no fiduciary obligation to their clients by default, so they can sell you whatever stock kind of advantages them, not necessarily what stock advantages you as an agent. I'm bound to put your needs and your outcomes ahead of my own. But if you're working with an agent to purchase an investment property, and that's all they do is they represent you in that transaction, or you're working with a wholesaler, for example, that has no obligation after that transaction closes, there's going to be a conflict of interest, right? There's going to be a disalignment of interest where they say, oh yeah, rent's $10,000 a month. There's no CapEx. That's not even a concept that exists. It's in such great condition. And then after that transaction closes, they're not still in relationship with you, and they're not accountable for your outcomes. Whereas with our business model, we have a real estate agency company, and we represent you in the transaction. And then we have a property management company that manages your property. So when we say, yep, we think it's going to be $1,500 per month as the rental rate, we have some level of accountability to that. And whether or not you buy more houses from us in the future is probably going to be directly determined by whether or not the houses that you've bought from us in the past perform, bearing some resemblance to the outcomes that we've mentioned. We try to put together like a pro forma for our clients, which is a really rare thing. Usually that's something that's just not in the wheelhouse of your agent, but because we're vertically integrated, we're able to do that.
Yeah, basically we've taken the idea of like David Green's core four that says those are the four team players that any real estate investor needs. So they need a real estate agent, a property manager, a contractor, and a lender. And we've essentially brought 3 of the 4 of those into our own value chain. And we've even talked about, will we eventually have a lending arm of our business as well? And so we're satisfying those core 4 requirements, but it's all in-house, and it leads to a great deal of accountability all the way through. So some of the probing questions you can ask yourself to apply these to your own real estate investing are: what agents, suppliers, or customers make decisions on your behalf? Who are those folks? And what aligned functions can you become more accountable for in your own business?
And we did get a question, what kind of LVP are you talking about? Man, we're excited about this flooring, so I want to take time to talk about it. It's a golden arowana. We get it from Costco, and it goes on sale like a couple of different months out of the year. And we literally buy all of it in the tri-state area as much as we possibly can. And you can order it online, and they'll ship it out if you're buying it, 5 pallets at a time or whatever as we do. And it's just it's a fantastic product. Rigid core, has a commercial grade wear layer, and it's padded. So we are very excited about that flooring, and we want to take some valuable time to call it out.
Costco knows to call us when they get more in stock.
When it goes on sale, Yep. So let's talk a little bit about alignment of incentives. And again, we're getting more excited about these things as
you can see how they're all building on each other, right? Each one is just a little bit different than the one before, but it's a little more powerful.
Absolutely. So we do joint venture deals. We do larger opportunities, and in those joint venture deals, we are acquiring the deal and representing ourselves as the agent. We own the deal. We are the property management company for the deal, and we raise the capital. And in like more of like a traditional syndication model, those roles, are separate. You might have like an asset manager persona that manages the manager, and then a property manager that's kind of tenant facing, and then you might have another individual that goes out and does your capital raise, and then yet another individual that finds the deal and kind of puts the deal together. Very common for these to all be kind of disparate roles, and that dilutes your incentives. So let me share a fun story, an exciting story from 2 weekends ago. So we've had extraordinarily, low temperatures here in Minnesota, as you've probably seen on the news, all the way down to Oklahoma and Texas and everything. And so we had extended periods below zero, and it's 20 below zero, day after day after day after day. And we have these brand new Class A townhomes, and even in this new construction, the furnaces were struggling to keep up, and the heat would stop working, and we needed to get HVAC techs out there. So our HVAC techs have been working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12, 14 days straight, and our tenants are a little frazzled because they don't have heat. So it's a Saturday afternoon. Elaine and I are spending time with our kiddos, and we get the call from our management team. We don't usually do a lot of tenant facing stuff. We get the call that there's been we'll call it a mild altercation between the HVAC technician and one of our tenants, and they appropriately immediately escalated that to us. So I pick up the phone and I call the tenant and say, "Hi, this is Nick Staugerberg with Black Swan. I understand there's an issue getting your heat turned back on." And he says, "Yeah, who is this?" And I said, "I'm the owner." And he said, "What do you mean you're the owner? The owner of the management company?" I said, "I'm the one of the property, the owner of the management company. What can I do to help you get the heat turned back on?" And you hear him go, "Hey, honey, it's the owner. Just 1 second. Yeah. What do we need to do?" And dropped everything, go out there, make sure that we can crank down our testosterone a little bit and act like adults. I physically escorted the HVAC technician into the unit, made sure we got the heat turned back on. It didn't take long, and then made sure that we weren't going to have this problem again with that HVAC technician or with that tenant. The only reason it makes sense for me to do that is because, Elaine and I, we are the owner. We own the outcomes for these assets. Whereas if there were all these fragmented roles in the deal, that dilutes our incentives, and I'm probably not going to want to drop everything with my kiddos and my wife to go take care of a tenant dispute on a weekend. So when you vertically integrate, when you own every step in that supply chain and you have total accountability, that's when you get really incredible outcomes. And you have to be vertically integrated in order to get that kind of alignment of incentives. So we're going to challenge you to think critically about what you can do to align incentives with your vendors, your customers, your business partners. What parts of your business feel in or out of alignment right now? It's something you can feel when you're talking to someone on the phone. You're just like, I just don't think they care enough or are working as hard as they can. If that's the case, that's on you, because you have not done a good enough job as the owner of this relationship to align your incentives. And when you vertically integrate this kind of alignment, it happens by default.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to talk about trust and relationships. So we think that the funnest thing about being in business is being in relationship. We recognize a lot of the names of the participants here, and it's amazing having the opportunity to create all of these relationships. When we had reached about, say, like 20 doors, we had basically hit financial freedom, we had to ask ourselves, do we want to keep going? Do we want to get bigger? Do we want to have kind of that mythical life where we take our children and live on the beach forever and travel the world? And we did some of that, absolutely. But then there was a hunger for more. And I think that's likely true for most people, especially if you're still in the prime of your productive years. And so what really kept us going was the relationships that we've been able to create because we're so vertically integrated. And so we're thinking about what is our value chain, and we have several different value chains. We'll hop back to talk more concretely now that we've gone through some of these examples about some of the businesses that we've built. But what are those rungs? What are our value rungs at $0, at $100, at $1,000, at 10,000, at $1 million, at 10 million? We're brainstorming that $100 million value rung. All of you should be thinking about that too. Whether you have, one door that maybe you're self-managing, or you have a 9-figure portfolio, where are all those value rungs? Are there any rungs that are missing? Are there any rungs that you don't own? Those are some of the questions from this slide. When we think about some of our the relationships that we've been able to create, let's talk about kind of the investor side. So Nick had mentioned he's a licensed real estate agent. We have a real estate agency team. We help our investors purchase single family homes. We coordinate all of the rehab. We bring a lot of those materials in-house. We don't yet bring in a lot of the actual labor, and a lot of that's for like liability and safety reasons, but we're very accountable for the rehab that we put together. And then we manage them. So all along there's relationship there. And then through those relationships, we've had people come to us and say, I love placing capital. In our market, it's maybe about $75,000 for the down payment and the rehab and everything for a single family home. But hey guys, I have like $1 million of liquidity or more liquidity. What can we do with that? And it's because of those relationships that we're able to build that trust to do these larger deals together. Another example on the other side is with our tenants. So we our $0 rung on our value chain would be answering the phone when a prospective tenant calls. Nick's going to talk some about Zillow and how that impacts real estate agents. And then that $0 rung is showing up at the property and showing them the property, having the opportunity for our staff to introduce themselves and to introduce our management company. And then in our market, say the average rent is like, let's say $1,500. So that's our $1,500 value rung where they lease from us, and that's their monthly rental rate. For a lot of real estate investors, that's where it stops. But we're able to have a several $100,000 value rung where if those folks want to go on to home ownership, we have a unique selling proposition in our business where all of our leases can end for free if that person moves on for home ownership and uses our team as the real estate agent. And so we're able to have another value rung, and it's all so synergistic. We're able to get really high quality tenants that are in their last rental home. They know how to take good care of properties. They have good jobs. They pay on time. They're able to meet their dreams through working with our business. We're able to keep vacancy really low because a lot of people are attracted to our business in the community because we have that unique selling proposition. And it just all works so well together because we have these multiple rungs on our value chain.
So, we just pulled up the slide from the beginning of our presentation looking at our companies. And you might say, hey, you said that horizontal integration is terrible. You've got all this horizontal integration. But if you look closely, you'll see that's not true. So we have a real estate sales team that's representing buyers and sellers in real estate transactions. And that's principally focused on investment properties. And we are our biggest customer. And then we have our property management company. And again, we are its biggest customer, and we are serving the clients that we are already serving in our real estate agency team. And then we are raising our own capital. And again, we could, potentially outsource that to some private equity fund or something of that nature. This is not like a new line of business. This is not horizontal integration. This is raising capital for our own deals for the clients we represent and for the deals that we purchase with investor capital. Then we're doing new construction. But again, every single one of these things, it's long-term residential rental. So we are building long-term residential rental properties. And then we, of course, own a lot of these assets ourselves, and that's long-term residential rental property. There's a lot of things you don't see on here. For example, a lot of people do Airbnb, and people ask us, why don't you do Airbnb? Well, that would be an example of horizontal integration, because that's really a service business. If you think about it, we're in the asset acquisition management business, and Airbnb short term, that's more of a service business. In fact, we will rent many units to investors who then sublet as Airbnb, so they can go operate that service business. And now we have a gross commercial lease on a residential property, so we can stay laser focused on the thing that we excel at. And then you can see in this chart all the rungs on our value ladder. So we have a $0 rung. We've got, so you can go to singlefamilyatscale.com and check out our free course. We've got a little note there on the bottom of the slide. That's our $0 rung. Elaine talked about the tenant side and the investor side, how you can move up our value ladder. And if you're not familiar with the concept of value ladder, go give it a Google. It's a completely life-changing concept to understand. You have to have a $0 rung on your value ladder to get into relationship with people. And as individuals who have raised millions of dollars of capital, you can tell you that you don't just shake hands with someone and they write you a check for $1 million. You have to have a $0 rung. You have to have a $1,000 rung. You have to have a $100,000 rung before you can get to that $1 million rung on the value ladder with someone. And then you have to own each rung on that value ladder. Mm-hmm. That's very critical. So, for example, Zillow, they sell leads to real estate agents. They own that $0 rung on the value ladder, and Zillow is now kind of going into business to compete directly with real estate agents, and real estate agents are figuring out they don't own that rung on their value ladder, and it's a really scary thing for a lot of real estate agents that have built their business on that Zillow platform. So we will challenge you to think critically about your value ladder. What are the rungs on your value ladder? What rungs are missing, and what rungs are you not vertically integrated with that you don't actually own? So
go ahead.
I just got done talking a lot. So gosh, opportunity. This is where it starts getting really exciting. Where do your leads come from? How much do you pay for a lead right now? I was just talking about Zillow. So we know an agent here in our office, and they pay $300 a month to Zillow to make their phone ring 6 times. Not 6 leads, to make their phone ring 6 times. Real estate representation leads are some of those valuable leads in all of marketing. Now, because we own the property management company, and we own the assets, and we own the real estate agency, we're able to bring all those things together. And as Elaine said, we have this unique selling proposition that if you rent from us, you can, we'll help you buy a home. It's right there in every single one of our rental listings. And then on the real estate agency side, we don't have to pay for leads the way many other agents do, because we have this audience that we've already built a relationship with. We already know their credit score, we know their story, and we're ready to take them on the next step in the journey. So our typical individual, they'll come, lease from us for a year when they relocate to our market, and we're helping them get qualified for a loan and getting them set up with a search. And then when they're ready to make the move, then they can buy a home from us. So we get a super high quality tenant that still runs out, a typical duration lease. And I mean, it's just a win for absolutely everybody that's involved in the transaction. And none of that is possible if you're not vertically integrated. We have to own all those pieces of the value chain in order to be able to make these incredible offers. So think critically. What other steps in your value chain can bring leads to your core business? I promise you that your distributor or your supplier, they are going to be one of your top lead generation sources. And if you owned or were more vertically integrated with that step in the value chain, what lead generation is going to come from that? And what other steps in your value chain would create opportunities for your business? Think critically about that.
All right, let's talk about agility. So it's just a basic concept in business that the person who is closest to the end customer wins. So we can think about how like Apple has built their business, where they sell their products in a store where they have curated everything, the furniture, the lighting, the customer service reps that are meeting with the customer, talking about the products. That's so that they can be close to the end customer, so that they can hear the direct feedback and then give that back up the supply chain to influence the next generation of products. Same thing in real estate. So because we own the property management company, because we meet with our leasing staff almost every day, we know exactly what our leasing staff is hearing in terms of what properties are renting quickly, what are the trends that people are talking about, what are the rental amounts that people are talking about. So we're like right at the front of that in a way that we wouldn't be if there was a step or a half step removed from ourselves and property management. And it influences our business a great deal, especially the market is moving, not just in our market, but in the whole country. Prices are changing. And as prices change, we need to know with great certainty, what is our rental rate? And so when we're hearing from our leasing staff that, hey, the calls I'm getting, people are saying I can go over $2,000. When last summer, we knew that people would say, I'm looking for a rental that's $2,000 or under. So now that gives us some idea of maybe we can push pricing a little further on the acquisition side. let's talk even more specifically. So last year, we had a great prospective tenant. They wanted a multi-year lease. They were relocating to our market. We showed them everything we had, and nothing was quite the right fit. We also had a pool of investors who were looking to purchase single-family homes, and we were able to give the prospective tenant a list of basically everything on the MLS that we knew would make a great rental, that we would be happy to own, that any of our investors would be happy to own, and say, you know, maybe we don't have the inventory that you're looking for, but what about all of this inventory? And think about how powerful that is when we were able to take a prospective tenant shopping for homes that were on the market. Now, this is when the market moved a hair slower, so homes would be on the market for a few days instead of a few hours. But think about how powerful that was to our investor as well, to say, here's a home that you can purchase. A tenant's going to move in for a multi-year lease at a rate that's predetermined a few days after you close. All we have to do is get in there and clean it. And think about the synergy that's created there. And we have this tenant that now is absolutely in love with us. That person has referred at least a half dozen other very high quality tenants to us. We have an investor that's just astounded at what we've been able to create. And that's been a huge win-win relationships. And it's because we have that very close relationship with our end customer. And we're right there day in and day out doing the business of our company. We think about how you have to fall in love with your ideal customer, not your ideal product. So when we're working with our customers, what are they looking for? What type of housing are they looking for? What are the best neighborhoods? What are the rental rates? And because we have that vertical integration, we're able to hear that information and then immediately make changes in our supply and value chain to meet those constant demands.
Absolutely. So we encourage you to make sure that you are falling in love with your ideal customer and making them your raving fan.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not doing that, you are missing huge opportunities in your business, regardless of your vertical integration. But go a level deeper than that. Who is your favorite customer? Write that down right now. Who is make it a specific person. Who is your number one favorite customer? How can you get more of that person as your customer? What is it they want? Forget your product. What are their needs and how can you meet their needs? And what customers do you need to fire? So all these things become possible with vertical integration. You can say, listen, maybe I love this customer and they're really looking for this thing instead of this thing. You can offer them that thing when you expand your level on your value chain.
Yeah, let's talk about, as an example, I just want to ad lib here, is of agility and control together. So we kind of struggled with feedback from our tenants as they moved in that the houses just weren't clean enough. And it was so confusing to us. We were using many different cleaners in town, the best of the best, cleaners that cleaned our own personal home.
Literally.
But we heard it over and over and over again. So we knew that there was truth in it. And because we have that direct feedback, because we're the owners of the asset, the owners of the property management company, we're able to say, we will drive over and look at it right now to understand exactly what you're talking about. What is not clean? How can we improve it? And we made the decision to bring in full-time cleaning into our vertical integration in-house just in the last couple of weeks. Big decision because we're not a cleaning company. We've not brought in other contractors where we have brought in the materials, but we've not brought in the other contractors. But knowing that we care a great deal about our ideal customer, we want them to have a phenomenal experience. We work so hard on our culture and everything. We don't want to lose any of that momentum on move-in day because a fridge is a little dirty. And the way to be both agile and have control is to bring that service in-house, to train that person to exactly our specifications, to have our staff supervise that person. And again, just knowing that we want to do everything we can to create that raving fan. And because we're vertically integrated, we have control over doing so.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic example. Let's talk about something else that we're super excited about, and that's culture.
Yeah.
A huge advantage of vertical integration is you only have to build culture one time, and then you can multiply the impact of that culture. If you're on this webinar today, there's a good chance that you work in or have built a winning culture, a culture of excellence. We have employees who are our raving fans. We have full-time staff members and vendors that just adore working with us, and we're constantly troubleshooting, how to improve those relationships and make those relationships even better. We have a very high standard for everything that we do as an organization, and so when we go to vertically integrate, when we go to hire a cleaner in Elaine's ad lib example there, we're going to take that existing culture, we're going to have a new hire that soaks up that culture, that drinks that Kool-Aid, and is able to clean these units to a standard that is up to the standards of our ideal customer. And we don't have to build that culture again. We can just leverage our same culture over and over and over and over again. And it's not a big leap. We can talk to our vended service contractors and say, hey, would you like to do this in addition to doing this? Is this something that you'd like to pull into our value chain? It doesn't even necessarily have to be a full-time employee. So we want to challenge you. Do you have a culture of excellence? Do you have an exceptional culture? Whether you have 0 or 1 doors or 100, it's easiest when you have a culture of 1, right? What can you do to amplify that culture? And what can you do to leverage your culture against other steps in your value chain?
I'll say, vulnerably as a woman, a question that I get, Nick doesn't get it as often, but a question that I get is, how do you do all of this? You're so busy, or maybe you're listening and you're thinking, I'm not a full-time real estate investor. I have a job, or I'm a stay-at-home parent, or that sort of thing. And the answer to that is culture. So I don't spend a lot of time doing the day-to-day operations of our companies. I spend all of my time on building the culture. And then because I'm able to leverage that across many, many steps of the value chain, I get tremendous return from it. And so culture is like the catalyst that lights all of this on fire. Absolutely.
Yeah. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. Great question. If tenants have the option to buy at the end of their lease, how do your investors have continuity of cash flow? Great question. So, and we get this question often. So we limit when they can terminate their lease. So they can't terminate their lease in the off season. So it's just during the summer months that's allowed. And because of when move-ins occur, that pretty much means we always get a full year lease from that individual. It's only happened like 1 or 2 times that someone has moved in, immediately purchased a home, and moved out. And so it's a win-win, because we get a quality of tenant who is a homeowner, 6-figure income, and they really just need a place to stay for for a short period of time until they're ready to purchase a home. And then when so getting very specific here, what we do is we waive our tenant placement fee when we place a new tenant. So that investor typically has little or no vacancy that they probably would have had otherwise. And then they don't pay any kind of leasing commission, and they get a whole new year-long lease. So our investors, if we were selling a home to their tenant every single year, they'd be ecstatic about it, because they would never pay a leasing commission. Yeah.
And transparency is the name of the game. So we're very transparent with our tenants to say that this is a property that we don't own, and we need to make sure that we're minimizing vacancy. And when you've created a raving fan, what they'll say to us is, I'll do the showings for you, no big deal. And when you have a prospective tenant that's showing up, and the tenant that lives there is there, and they're the one saying they keep immaculate care of the property, they're amazing to work with, their staff is great, their staff
and
is
now
fun.
They're helping me buy a house.
And now they're helping me buy a house. Like, let me tell you, my friend, the business is really easy. So you just do everything you can to create that raving fan. Transparency, honesty, communication, and the rest of it just falls into place in a very synergistic way. Let's keep going, and then let's do the questions at the end.
Yeah, great idea.
All right, let's go on to, let's talk about what really matters. So we focused a lot here on business, on opportunity, on profitability, but let's talk about giving, and how being vertically integrated and coupling that with a mindset of giving is really what keeps this really interesting.
Yeah, so if you just have one rung on that value chain, there's not a huge impact that you can make. Let's be honest, you're not creating a huge amount of value, and there's not as much value to give. You might be able to give away some money, and we give a portion, 5% of all of our profits to a charity of our designation each year. And we're working on getting a 501c3 going right now, working with our attorney. But giving away money is only so interesting. When you are vertically integrated and you have many functions in your business, you create massive opportunities to give and to serve. And I want to challenge you right now to think critically about who you can serve with your business, with your real estate investment business, with your day job, because we found that when you sincerely are focused on giving, the ROI is off the charts. It blows up your business when you have that focus. It's magnetic. People are just drawn to you, and it's the thing we're most excited about, the impact that we can have when we own the whole supply chain, so we can do really cool things.
Why don't you tell a story about the the employee of ours that's under contract on their home.
Yeah,
That's a good story.
So we do a lot of acquisition. We're very good at tracking down off-market opportunities. We're very good at negotiation, and we train our staff in that way. We have the real estate agency arm, and we have a property management arm. So the person who's our director of operations for our property management company, she just got under contract for her first home, and she is bananas excited about first-time home buyer. So a great, well-qualified buyer, but it's hard for first-time home buyers to get a deal right now. It's just such a competitive market. So we almost had to find an off-market deal for this person just to get a property under contract. And a member of our real estate agency team use all these, all the training and resources we give them to find an off-market deal and to help our director of operations for a property management company buy that house. So we had no part of it. This just happened within our organizations, behind the scenes. And this is like the coolest thing that's in our life right now. We're just so excited to see the abundance and the wealth in every sense of the word that's created for all the people that are in our ecosystem, that are in our vertical supply chain. And selfishly, let's think about that ROI component. How do you think that member of our real estate agency team feels about helping someone who may not otherwise be able to get a home buy their first home? And how do you think our director of operations for our management company feels? How loyal to our organization, how excited do you think they are to just come into work in the morning? The ROI here is off the charts. So be sincerely focused on how you can serve, and you have to be vertically integrated to be able to make a big impact like that.
All right, let's talk about some concrete examples. So we want to do one example here that's really small that you can do if you have like your very first door, and then we're going to talk about a larger example as well. So Nick, why don't you do the sweat equity example?
Yeah, we recommend that everybody on their first deal, they do some sweat equity, at least a little bit, and not for the reason you think. It's not a question of saving cost. It's a question of core competence, of having the competence to supervise people to do that work on deals 2 through 1,000. My wife and I, we have laid thousands of square feet of tile, and we've laid luxury vinyl plank flooring. And so when we get a bid in from a contractor, and the install cost for the tile is 3 or 4 times the cost for the install cost of the LVP, we know that we're not being snowed because we have done it ourselves, and we know that installing tile is backbreaking, filthy work that takes multiple days, and it's really challenging, and LVP is a lot easier to install. And this is an example of vertical integration. Now we could hire a flooring installer to install flooring. We could hire them to buy the materials, or we could buy the materials ourselves. We could hire a general contractor to hire a flooring installer to do those things. We could hire a project manager to manage our general contractor to hire the flooring installer to install the flooring that we buy, or we could just do it all ourselves, right? And as we grow, it might get to where we have a project manager and a general contractor, all these different layers, but the core competence that comes from sweat equity, the returns are limitless. Even if you just screw it up and then you have to hire someone to come in and fix your mistakes, you're going to get a lot of insight from the renovation process just going through it yourself. So again, you don't have to have 100 doors for these vertical integration concepts to make sense for you. You could be working on your very first property, and we encourage you to vertically integrate it, to go get an account at Home Depot and run through that process and see what it looks like to exercise that account, to buy the materials, to do the logistics of getting the materials to the job site, and to install a little bit of flooring and run a paint roller yourself and see what that experience is like. That's a very good, concrete, immediate, small example.
Let's talk about a larger example. So what you'll see here is an acquisition we took down about 3 or 4 months ago. It's 30 existing townhome units. And then in addition, there were 10 acres of land. And the 30 townhomes were built by actually a roofing company, expanded into building, decided to build them with the thought of selling them to owner occupants. There was so much demand in this community for rental housing that it kind of organically became a rental community. So then they were managing it, and then they said, whoa, we never intended to be a property management company. We're a roofing company. We're going to sell this. So they had 30 existing townhomes. They had 10 acres of land that were already completely ready to go to build another 85 units. So it had been platted. There had been some utility work, lots of dirt work done, and they were selling it as a package. Because we're so vertically integrated, we were the ideal buyer for this. So let's think about maybe some of the buyers that might have looked at this deal. An investor could look at the 30 townhomes and say, that sounds good. I can maybe double or triple my portfolio in one acquisition. But what do I do with these 10 acres of land? Maybe I'll kind of have to like split that off and sell it, or I'll have a very, very, very expensive dog park that kind of doesn't fit. A property management company might say, I would love to manage 30 brand new Class A townhomes, but again, what do I do with the land? A builder might say, this land looks really good, and it's like training wheels are already on. I just have to show up and start moving the bulldozers and get the workers on site. But what do I do with these 30 townhomes? I'm not a property management company, but because we have all of the spots on the value chain, we were able to say, this looks really good. We can work with our investors to place capital to purchase it. Our property management company can run the 30 existing townhomes. The construction arm of our company can build the rest of the townhomes. And so it was a win-win-win deal. And we were the best buyers, and there weren't a lot of buyers. And so we were able to get a phenomenal price on this deal because of our vertical integration. If we hadn't been vertically integrated, we might have looked at it and thought, well, we really want the 30, or we really want the land, but we don't want both, and the deal wouldn't have come together. And so that's the biggest example so far in our own business of how we've used these concepts to take down a larger deal.
All right, so let's take a minute to talk about strategic versus utility capabilities. These are just core concepts in business. You need to vertically integrate on your one thing, on your core competency, on the thing that you give that gives you a comparative advantage, that you do better than anything else that you do, or anything that your competitors do. And you need to be laser focused on that one thing. McDonald's, they don't make the best hamburger. They are not focused on that. Clearly, they're very good at integrating their supply chain and delivering a consistent product. They are laser focused on that outcome. So you need to vertically integrate and bring in-house the core things that give you a comparative advantage. And then the things that don't give you a unique selling proposition, you need to hire those things out. You need to find great people who can take that off your plate. So for example, a tenant is not super likely to lease from us versus one of our competitors because of our accounting expertise. So we found Brandon Hall and we said, hey, Brandon, please take care of our accounting. We don't want to have an in-house accountant to do our tax prep and other accounting functions. You take care of it so we can focus on the things that make tenants fall in love with us and become our raving fan. If you don't know what your comparative advantage is, you have a big problem. And it's not an uncommon one. We do a lot of coaching, and we find there's a lot of people out there who I feel like they want to get something for nothing. They want to put together the deal, and they don't bring the money, they don't bring the debt, they don't find the deal, they don't manage the deal. They want it to just be this lights out passive income kind of operations. And I've got to break it to you, that just doesn't exist. In fact, there is no such thing as passive income. We should divorce ourselves from that concept. Even if you have a boring T-bill or something like that, the most passive income, kind of vehicle you can imagine, you still have to keep an eye on it. You have to do your taxes. You have to make sure that the money is showing up in the account when it's supposed to be. There's only leveraged income. You can leverage your time, your expertise. You can leverage your hard work, which is different from leveraging your time. And vertical integration is a powerful kind of leverage that you probably didn't even know you had available to you. And we recommend that you create the maximum amount of leverage you possibly can through all those kinds of leverage to create massive value, and constantly asking yourself, what is the value that I can create, and how can I create more value? If you are trying to get something for nothing, if you're trying to create passive income, you're not gonna be successful. It might work for a short time, but not for the long haul. You need to be willing to do the work, to do the hard work. Warren Buffett says the less sexy it is, the better. We know that property management is not the sexiest business. It's the thing that every real estate investor wants to hire out. The acquisition is kind of fun, the thrill of the chase. The rehab is kind of fun. You have this rapid transformation that happens in a short period of time, but then you've got to deal with tenants. And I'm going to be honest with you here, that's the piece that matters the most. You can buy the worst deal, get the worst debt, do the worst rehab, but if you just manage it competently, you're going to have good outcomes. Year after year, it's going to get a little bit better. You're going to have great tenants to take great care of the property, and eventually you're going to be in great shape. Conversely, you can get the best deal possible, get the best debt, do the best rehab. One train wreck tenant can turn that whole thing around and ruin it all. And so we found that doing the not sexy thing in our industry is the thing that set us apart. It's our comparative advantage. It's our unique selling proposition. It's the core of our vertical integration that sets us apart and lets us create massive value. So Starbucks grows their own beans. What is it that you are willing to do to create massive value for your value chain? What can you do to vertically integrate today? I challenge you to think about that.
Let's end on talking about financial freedom. So you might be thinking like, wow, these people are like really busy, or I don't want to get that complicated, or I have a goal of getting to say 10 doors and then, sailing off into the sunset and sitting on the beach for the rest of my life. And we have the great privilege of being after that step. And when we hit that step, I alluded to it earlier, we had to ask ourselves, well, what's next? Like, we're pretty young. What do we do now? Do we stop? Do we keep going? If we keep going, why, right? Like, let's be clear, we are adding complexity to our life. Why did we decide to do that? And I want to spend the last minute here talking about freedom from and freedom to. And I think financial freedom really focuses on freedom from a job, freedom from a boss that you don't like, freedom from missing your kid's soccer game, freedom from living in a different part of the country when your aging parents are in a different part, but that's where your job is. And those are all really important. But freedom to is a topic that isn't talked about as much. And that's freedom to do amazing things, to think about how am I going to change the community? Like when we had grown our business enough that we said, we're just going to give away 5% of all of our profits, and we're really going to change the way housing is done for women with young children, and particularly single moms. Like that is what kept us going. Like that is what makes this all worth it. And when we're able to put together relationships and deals and help other people grow, help other investors grow, and we grow right along with it, that's freedom too. And it's just this like beautiful nexus of energy and opportunities and ideas and fun things coming together. And we're able to do that because of vertical integration, because we control a lot of the chain, and we're working harder on controlling even more of the chain. And that gives us tremendous freedom to makes this life that's after financial freedom so interesting, so much fun to live. I would encourage you to think about, what are the things in your life that you want freedom to do? And how can you take something that you learned in this hour to apply to your real estate investing, to apply to your business, to apply to your personal life, to get you further to that freedom too?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's what we have. There's some questions here. So Brandon and Thomas, feel free to tell us how you want us to handle them. But while we're waiting to hear, should we just read them and then start answering them? Or do
Yeah, what I can do is I can just read off the questions and we kind of go through.
Hey, this is Brandon. I know there's like two pictures of me up here. This is actually Brandon. Really good talk. Really good talk. Since we only have 3 minutes, I would say let's transition to the next presentation. But Elaine and Nick, if you guys can share, there's a lot of questions in the chat and on the Q&A. So if you guys could share how people can contact you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody, you can just reach out to them, and that'll be that.
Yeah,
awesome.
You can go to singlefamilyatscale.com. We've got it on the slide there. We're putting it in our chat. You can sign up for our mailing list. That's our free course. It's huge value that we just give away. Our vision is to change what it means to people to be a landlord or a tenant. We believe that the tenant is the core asset in this business, not the property. And if you just treat your tenant the way you need to treat them to make them your raving fan, you're going to have amazing outcomes. And when we have 100,000 doors that we own and manage, and we have the authority to change that culture, we're going to move the needle on a national scale on what it means to be a tenant. And we're just giving away our entire playbook, our entire operations manual at singlefamilyatscale.com. So you can go watch every video, see exactly how we do business, and replicate it in your market. It's all the vertical integration pieces. It's literally our screening criteria, our marketing playbook, everything. And it's just all there for free. You can sign up for our mailing list and see how to contact us as well if there's any way that we can serve you.
Yep, I had an opportunity to read some of the questions, and they're all over the board, from like contractors to social equality, all of that stuff. And we cover all of those topics in the videos. It's like 8 or 10 hours of content. So. Yeah. I also put our emails there. We love to hear from people directly. We're generally happy to do like a 15-minute call with pretty much anyone. We love meeting people and building relationships. So reach out on our website or send us an email if you'd like. So Brandon and Thomas and the Real Estate CPA team, thank you so much for allowing us this time to spend with your audience. We really appreciate it.